Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another fine episode of the Sober Swole podcast. My name is Jake Howard.
And I go by DJ Swirl.
Chocolate and vanilla swirl.
And we're still waiting on our esteemed guest to pop in here, but that's just fine. We'll get rocking and rolling. Before we get doing that, I'm going to shout out to Royalty Nutrition. And to help me out with that, as always, here he is. Here is Warhorse.
Hey, it's Warhorse. Do you want your workouts to look like this? Or do you want your workouts to slay? When Warhorse picks his pre-workout, he wants it to slay. If you want second place, go with somebody else. If you want to be a champion, go with Royalty Nutrition.
That's right, ladies and gentlemen. Royalty Nutrition is a veteran-owned and operated supplement company that doesn't automatically go to use the cheapest ingredients while making supplements that help you along your fitness journey. Check them out. Use the discount code 37HAKE to save you 15% on your entire order. My next shout out of the evening will be to Gorilla Gains. That's gorilla-gains with a Z.com. They are a fitness apparel company that you can wear comfortably in and out of the gym. They also make great equipment that helps keep you safe while you train. Check them out and use the discount code Jake15 to save you 15% on that order as well. DJ Swirl, tell them about the Buy to Buy Empire.
You find yourself shopping in store or online, and you do not have the time, towing, or the muscle to get your new purchase home. Hit us up at Buy to Buy. That's at BUYTOBYE. We give you peace of mind from the time you buy until the time we say goodbye. That is for on-demand delivery, moving, staging, TV mounting, and assembly. We serve the entire Valley of the Sun, out here in Phoenix, Arizona, at Buy to Buy. This, what you see right here, is Buy to Buy Studios. Buy to Buy Studios, we do creative consulting, we do remote content creation, and we do post-production. So every phase of the creation process, we help take your brand and elevate it to the next level. High quality, low stress, remote controlled. That is at Buy to Buy Studios everywhere you are. Jake, what are we doing tonight, man?
Well, tonight we're still waiting for her to join us, but we've been in contact with Captain Sandy Yawn from Below Deck Mediterranean. She also filled in for Captain Lee on this last season of the flagship Below Deck show on Bravo. She's, a survivor of many near-death attempts, and she's an author, international speaker. Obviously has a lot on her plate. So
No
we're just
doubt.
waiting for her to pop in. But until then, man, what a week.
So the chicken
So
coop, the chickens, where we
chicken,
started, because we started last week was Reckless Chicken Coop, right?
yep, chicken coop is done.
Hey,
I just have to put the shade up there and then get the birds moved in. We picked up 6 new chicks, so we have 14 birds in total now. And I'm stoked, man. Everything's come together. Got the roof done, got the sides done. Here, redneck rigged the coop that was with the wrong pieces. Got that all put together, and I didn't break anything on purpose that whole time. So I mean, go me.
yeah.
Rage, my anger was controlled. It was very nice. It helped that I had my stepkids out there, and I was just stand next to me. We're gonna learn something together.
Yeah. So how are they? Are they very hands-on helpful?
They are if you ask. If
Okay.
you don't ask, they're kind of like whatever. But um, my stepson is getting very curious and wants to learn how to do more like hands-on stuff like that. So
Yeah.
I'm all about that. He's going to help me tomorrow with Ducktopia we're building here in our backyard.
Nice.
So I'm pretty stoked about that. So Ducktopia. I got my duck run and we've got that. I have the base of it all built. I just have to get the gate secured and wrap it, and then secure it with the extra wire to keep this these brutal dogs from getting to my ducks.
Yeah.
They're huge. They're huge. They're ready to go live on their own. So
Sound like they're
whatever
ready
keeps
for the
them,
plate.
dude. I love them a lot, but they're birds. Birds are messy, and ducks are worse because they splash their water around. And
Their
I've
poop
had to
water.
well, so there's poop water, and then I have to keep the cage I have them in. I have to keep it about a foot away from the wall, and then a foot away from any furniture or anything nearby because they'll literally stick their butt up against the grate and shit. And I have I've cleaned a massive amount of duck poop off my wall. Pretty pretty tired of it.
Yikes.
How was your week, man?
My week was not bad. Um, Took me nearly 2 years, but I finally sold the house, and so now we are back in control of our situation. Nothing has changed. Um, we still have the dumpster next to the house from them taking care of the roof, which we also just got updated, as well as the back patio. Um, but yeah, man, the long process is finally done. Shout out to Cassandra Ali and the rosin team. They took care of us. They expedited the process, so it went really quick. Um, and yeah, man, I just had to, and I paid what part of the sale. The deal was to keep my girls in their same situation because my youngest will join my oldest at the same school that my wife also teaches at in a few months. And so the idea was to not have to deal with any, school districts, none of that. And so they had some continuance, some continuity with what their situation is now. We've hit a pretty good, stride in our routines. And so just want to make sure that stayed in place, and that is the case. So very happy about that. That's something that they will probably never know, but um, just being able to take the weight off of every day not knowing, every day the calls, every day the letters, the emails, and then the strangers who are randomly texting you and messaging you and soliciting you, trying to literally be in your business.
Yeah.
And so that's finally done. And so now we can start the rebuilding process, and the bounce back will be massive. So that was my big deal. So also went and saw a couple movies. Started to do matinee Wednesdays with my oldest. Um,
Nice.
she's she's still continuing to kick ass in school, and every time she does, we reward her. So uh, she has half days on Wednesday, and so since she gets out early, we go catch a matinee. And today was our second week doing it. And so last week we went and saw Ant-Man and Quantumania, and then today we went and saw the new Super Mario Brothers movie. And she thinks it's so cool for to be in the big seats, the reclining, and then we got the standard, the blue icy and popcorn and some chocolate. So like she was loving life today, but it was well deserved because she's doing her thing at school. So yeah, that's our new thing, Wednesday matinee Wednesdays. So um, still costs us money at daycare, which is awesome because Wednesdays she goes there half day, and that's the only day that she goes. But we have to keep her on the payroll or whatever that means for
Yeah.
for them to even be able to watch her. So yeah, that's coming to an end real soon. And then with both of them being out of daycare, that will save us some money. So looking forward to that as well.
Good, man.
So
Oh gosh. So do you ever have phone calls with like your family and then all of a sudden,
oh,
they're like, "Oh, by the way, everyone's dying."
Well, my relationship with my extended family is pretty quiet. Like
Okay.
there's you're doing your thing on your side of the country, you're doing your thing, and then we say hello and hi and happy birthdays and might meet up for family gatherings or whatnot, but that's the extent of it. So no, I don't get those phone calls, but I usually get it relayed from either my younger brother or my mom, who's still back home.
Well, so I I try and keep in regular contact with my grandmas.
Okay.
Um, just I mean, Grandma Howard, I call and check in on, and what's up there, Flex Chef? But, I call and check in on Grandma and say hi and whatever. And so I call my Grandma Howard, and we get all caught up, and she tells me how about how she hopes SDSU comes up and pulls up and beats UConn because she's tired of UConn winning.
Very nice.
Sorry, Grandma. And but yeah, no, she loves watching March Madness. She'll sit and she'll watch it. She'll tell you, I don't ever start my bracket till there's 8 teams. There ain't no point in me trying to rate.
Nice.
I ain't doing the whole dang bracket. I'll wait till there's about 8 of them. But yeah, she loves watching college basketball and baseball. So that's what she does. And
Nice.
so we talked all about that. She goes, "Oh, you might want to talk to your aunt. You know how Uncle Greg had those blood clots in his lungs. Well, now he's having trouble with his heart and he can't breathe, and they're trying to figure it out. And then your cousin, all of a sudden went cross-eyed and he can't see, and they got him special glasses and an eye patch, and they're trying to figure out." And I was like, "Oh, okay,
Dang.
cool." And so Grandma and I wrap up our conversation, and you know, okay, I love you too. And then like my aunt must have sensed in the force I was talking to her mother because she hits me up right away. Hey, hello. And then she's like, here's what's going on with us, and bam, 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 bam,
On the
bam,
money.
bam.
Yep.
And I was like, oh. I mean, like, I'm sure everyone's gonna be fine, but it was just like it was like necessary knowledge, but it was just like unexpected. And all of a sudden, it's like, oh, by the way, your uncle and your cousin have some like weird, out of nowhere medical stuff going on. It's pretty intense. I, I, I know it's kind of late at night. And you're just you're getting
Just
wound down
winding
ready for
down.
bed,
Yeah.
but you want to stop and think about mortality for a little bit. And like,
Thanks, Grandma.
yeah, but it wasn't just grandma. Like grandma, like so with my grandma, it's like I understand, but it was like Aunt Cheryl, like sensed in the forest, like Jacob knows. I must let him know.
Yep.
And she's like, bah.
Yeah. No, man, my mom does that. Like she'll give me random updates on people's conditions that I didn't ask her about, just because it's in fresh in her mind and she's in the know. So I don't know who else she has to talk about that outside of the family. So I get it.
Well, I'm also at that age too, where like my aunts and uncles and stuff and things like that, like I'm gonna know about.
Yeah.
It's gonna hit harder kind of thing. Because it used to be grandma would be like, "Well, you remember cousin so and so," and I'd be like, no. You know what I mean? And like some like way distant family member that I may have met when I was 4 once.
Yep.
Like
Yep.
now it's just like I'm getting older, and then everybody else is older than that, so it's like weird.
Yeah. So when your grandma's talking to you about March Madness, how into the tournament are you yourself? And are you able to go back and forth with like player names and stuff, or how
Oh
deep does that
no,
go?
no, it just depends on if I've put $5 down on a game or not.
Right.
Yeah, basketball. I can watch basketball, but I've never been into basketball to a point where I need to get to know the players on the team or what's going on.
Yeah.
Like I enjoy the I can say that I enjoy the sport, but it's not like something I feel passionate about where I need to be supremely invested.
Well, the NCAA is tough because they don't get paid. So
Right.
I know the NIL, all of the transfer portal, all that stuff. They're trying to find ways for them to not have to pay the players, but the players still get paid, and
Right.
they're doing what they're gonna do. But so I try not to advertise it. I try not to be vocal about it because the attention that you give them, they don't reciprocate that to the people who actually are deserving of being talked about. So it was kind of hard to do that this year because the women's tournament was so big. Um, I understand the stigma that women's basketball carries with it, especially to insecure men. So, I understand why it is supported less and whatnot. Um, Also with the athleticism that's involved, but I mean that's biology. That's
Yeah.
anatomy. Not every girl is going to be able to get up and dunk it like most NBA players can, right? So it's just like
Right.
you understand what you're buying into going into it. No shade to the women at all; they're still phenomenal athletes. But yeah, this year the NCAA tournament for women's, I posted something that or I shared something to where this was the first year that the women's tournament was actually able to use the NCAA March Madness like branding.
That's wild.
They
But
weren't allowed to before this, bro. I was like Bomani Jones, Game Theory on his show on HBO. He's the one where I saw that. But just something as simple as that is like word. And then you see all of the stuff about how they never, the difference and in their locker rooms. The girls was very sparse. The guys was this facility, the welcoming parties for them. Like they had a DJ playing and stuff this year for the women when they came in, and they made them feel invited to their own tournament for the first time in I guess a long time, and the ratings show it. The way that people cannot get Angel Reese's name out of their mouth right now is like it's craziness, and it's all surrounding something that they were hesitant to support, which is crazy.
yeah, I've seen bits and pieces about this, and then like people are like throwing a fit about her being classless or whatever, and
Yeah,
I was just like, I don't see it like
and
that at
and
all.
it's
Like,
and
and
it's
this,
all it,
I haven't watched one
yeah,
game. All I saw was a lady that was like stoked that she's about to be a national champion.
yeah.
That's it. That's all I saw.
And
And
there's levels, absolutely, understandably, and you didn't have to watch the game to be a competitive person and to understand that
yeah,
spirit of overcoming, that spirit of to where there's still sportsmanship involved because it's not like it's not it's not something that would keep going on, but it will because of social media. Social
yeah.
media is
Well,
what really will drive that into a bigger conversation.
my whole thing was like, I don't know. So I don't know who she is, how good she is, or I don't know.
Yeah,
Like she could have been just fresh off the bench to come in for like the last 10 seconds or whatever. Either way, I was just like,
yeah. What
okay, like
she's
cool, like
she's for sure not that. One,
oh yeah,
two.
okay, yeah,
It You would have never heard about it if that was the case. That's absolutely correct. The same way when the Super Bowl was going on, there was an offensive lineman, I believe, who had like a domestic battery charge. Never made any part of the news because he was on the practice squad. So he's not a starter. He's not someone who could make a significant impact on the game. So they didn't even talk about it, dog. Like you had to dig
yeah,
just to find that out. Um, but yeah, this is more of the same. More of the same. First off, Angel Reese was the most valuable player of the tournament.
okay,
She had a double double every game. Um, and her counterpart, Caitlin Clark, who plays for Iowa, she is a monster dog. Like I think she scored 40 points twice this tournament, and she's got Steph Curry range. So it's like it was exciting to watch. And
yeah,
I shared something today. One of the other teammates from LSU, who's not getting all the press, she was actually on America's Got Talent, and she is super talented. She's a rapper, all of this stuff. And so like there are all these levels to the story that is the game and the players that people like yourself may not even care about, but just the discussion of behavior is brought up because of the high visibility of it all and the big names that are being tossed around. And but yeah, the it wasn't necessarily a tit for tat thing because the way that Caitlin Clark did the first gesture, which is this whole thing, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so she did it to South Carolina when she beat them. Angel Reese is still tight with South Carolina players. So she took that as disrespect. And so when she was in the position to do it herself, she also did it. However,
Hmm.
as the game expired, she followed Caitlin Clark around and was going like that to make sure that she saw, right? She wanted
Yeah.
to make her point and she like did this thing with her ring and all that. And so we've had a conversation about all this because of John Cena and how he plays into this all. But yeah, what a lot of the classless conversation was coming from, all from people who typically frame things in a classless manner, they are all up in arms saying that, oh, well, she did the most. She did way more, blah, 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 blah. So, like, Barstool Sports and that whole echelon, like, they are all on the classist boat simply because it drives attention. But
Yeah.
those people go out of their way to be classless on a regular basis.
All the time.
And, and then when
Barstool
black,
Sports has no business telling
yeah,
anybody they're classless.
yeah. And so I saw quickly on Twitter to where, is it Dan Portnoy? Is that his name?
Dave.
Dave
Dave.
Portnoy. He said classes or whatever, and then Shaq said your mom or something like that.
Yeah.
And so then he posted again, he's like, "Hey mom," and he posted his text conversation with his mom, and it's like it's just the thirst is so real,
Yeah. Well,
so
and
real.
then what was it? Keith
Oberman,
Olbermann said some shit too. And he
yeah,
got ruined.
yeah,
Like,
and it's the same old like we were talking about, silence and strength. We're coming from
well, dude.
these generations where these older white men have a problem with young black people being having swag, having character. But then when it's a Joe Burrows or it's a Caitlin Clark or it's somebody else, and they tip and they're that white savior syndrome goes
See,
into effect.
and that makes no sense to me, man. Because like we grew up watching NBA players like beat the shit out of each other for real on a court, and
Right.
they didn't even like stop the game. They're like, okay, take your fucking 2 shots,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
and that was like the end of it. And then back when like they brought back touchdown celebrations now, kinda like they're nowhere near to the level of like Terrell
Wow.
Owens in his prime or like freaking Ocho Cinco grabbing the camera,
Yep.
like Keyshawn Johnson for Christ's sake,
Yeah.
like so like we grew up in an era of no sportsmanship.
I don't even know if it's no
And
sportsmanship, but
neither do I. Like,
it's in that era where you get more attention by being loud, by being evocative, right? And that's
yeah,
all that everything is on social media. Most of it is
right,
contrived because all it is trying to be loud or be obnoxious for the sake of the attention. And so these professional athletes do it playing a child's game
right.
for insane amounts of money. And so then people who work hard and have typical blue collar jobs feel like they have the opportunity to say something because they're incapable of making money at that scale. Like there's so much insecurity behind it all that it's hilarious to see it.
The icky shuffle. There you go.
Dating
Well,
ourselves here.
dude,
Hey,
dude, the Dirty Bird,
the
man.
dirty bird. Ooh,
Dude, like, you know what I mean? Like, I was like,
Jamal
I,
Anderson. What's his last name? Who's the player?
that sounds right.
Yeah, yeah.
Shh.
I'll have to spot check
Gee.
myself.
Well, I remember for a while you couldn't even find like YouTube videos of the Dirty Bird celebration because they had like banned
They
it.
u- they used to they used to 5 years ago. Players were fined for any
Mhm.
and everything that highlighted their individuality, their
Right.
value as their own brand. The NFL was not about it because it's a challenge to their control, to their prominence, and then all the backlash happened. So all of these things are usually in response to pushback. So like the NCAA for the women's side, there was pushback because social media got to show the behind the scenes that we all didn't get to see. And so because of that pressure, the NCAA said, okay, we should probably treat them better. Not even fair, not equal, not better than, just better.
Just
And the
better than what
result
they're being treated.
and the result is humongous. So the NFL is trying to do the same thing. They're like, oh, maybe if we're fun, maybe if we just allow them that they allow them to have fun playing this child's game, people will like it. And then it turns into the whole defense going in. There's a defense cam. And
Yeah.
then they have these guys running around with cameras on the field. So it's like it's a Madden game, and you see how much now the NFL looks like Madden simply to compete, simply for that familiarity because Madden has been a series for 25, 30 years. So,
Mhm.
it, yeah, man. I remember people talking about the no fun league,
Yep.
and that's what they called it because of that. And it's like just like something as simple as your shoes being customized.
Different color. Yeah.
And now it's like they zoom in super close during right after during a timeout or whatever, so you can see the charity or the person that when Damar Hamlin had his injury and all that stuff. They made a humongous fucking deal about showing support and stuff like that. And so once it
Yeah.
benefits them and they're able to capitalize off it, they will make it a big point. But yeah, you're right. Even celebrations still like they're gonna be like, don't let us not be in control.
Act like you've been here before, guys, within reason.
That fucking phrase, dog. Act like you've been here before from people who have literally never been there.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, 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 yeah. Anyway, so yeah,
Yeah.
all that has gone down. What else? What else has gone on?
Well, speaking of Angel Reese, didn't she pretty much tell Joe Biden where she could shove it?
Bruh. I posted earlier, I was like, Melania, she's winning so big today for no reason. She's doing exactly what she does. Nothing. And her husband gets arraigned, and Jill Biden gets ran through the coals because she tried to give out the biggest participation trophy in history.
Yep.
Like,
Both teams can come.
because that's gonna make it better.
Yeah.
Because sharing the spotlight with a loser,
When does that ever happen?
it's the ceremony of it all, man.
Yeah.
The ceremony does not need to happen. And now I always say, beware of people who change definition before behavior. Like, what? Don't do that because it undermines the greatness of a champion.
Right.
Just off top. Like, invite them behind the scenes, have a separate dinner. Have a separate thing where the runner up gets to come to the White House. Because I
Yeah.
think that still has
Look,
value.
well, see, the runner-up goes and hangs out with like the vice president at the second house, wherever the hell it is. You
Rem-
know, like,
Remember when the champions would come through the White House and Trump had McDonald's waiting for him? Like,
yeah.
oh, they're young kids. This is what they want to eat, huh?
I think
Oh,
I think
but Joe Biden is as bad, if not worse than that, because it's like, why?
well,
It's the white
I
savior
think
complex. It's
dude, I
Caitlin
think it,
Clark. She's a monster. She does a lot of good things. I don't know, is Jill from Iowa? Does she have
Jill.
Midwest connections? Joe
I have
Biden?
no clue.
Yeah,
Joe's from Pennsylvania.
whatever the case is, because the attention that comes from Caitlin Clark. And she's, for all accounts, unless there's something that I'm unaware of that's not come to light, she seems like a decent person. She seems like a good person. And she does
Yeah.
things already for the sake of other people, for representation. So there's no reason to not want to root for Caitlin. However, this is a reason to not root for Caitlin.
Right.
And it
Like,
doesn't have to happen. It's another thing that nobody was asking for.
I think my favorite sports team going to the White House was when Jim McMahon was the backup quarterback on the Packers before he
Oof.
retired. So so he missed going to the White House with the 83 Bears
Right. 85.
or 85 Bears. Pardon me.
You're
Excuse
good.
me.
You're good.
Excuse me.
You're good.
But he missed. I can't. He said something came up where he missed it. So when all the Packers went to the White House, he went in wearing his Bears jersey
Yes.
because I missed it.
Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, if I was on a sports team and we won and got an invitation to the White House, like I would take a picture of the invitation and I would say, awesome sauce. And that might be the extent of it. Because again, what's the value of going to the White House? To say you've done it?
Yeah,
To say you've been celebrated in the nation's highest building. Like I don't attach a lot of value to that. I've been to DC, I've seen the White House. I don't know, man. I don't chase
yeah.
clout like that, I guess. I don't know.
I don't think I've ever even wanted to visit the White House.
I mean,
Like
when you're
truthfully,
there, it's kind of the thing to do, right?
yeah.
It's the nation's capital. So see all of the stuff you've read about in history books. Whether it pertains to your life or your story or your your anything is completely separate. But like,
So we've talked about me being a big history buff multiple times,
yep,
but I just the older I get and the more I've learned and know about politicians in general, I kind of just like yuck.
yeah.
I don't want to like yuck. Why would I go here? You know?
Well, I don't know how much you care about golf, but the Masters is going on. And so this is the first year where I've been turned off by just hearing that name because it's like the climate, everything that's going on with, the updates, teams are changing their name, all of these things. And so it doesn't take long for you to do a quick dive and to find out that the place, Augusta National, where they play this golf tournament, is an old indigo plantation. For sure had slaves there. So it's built on those grounds. And the tournament is literally called the Masters. You don't have to be a genius to see how that's problematic. And then and then the treatment of black people through golf itself. How you could only be a caddy at Augusta National up until the 80s. How the previous owner or the person in charge is on record saying, as long as I'm alive, there will be white golfers and black caddies. Like he's on record saying that, dog. So there's so many things about all this. And then you throw in the LIV golf. So the Saudi Arabia sponsored golf league, right?
Yeah,
That's in direct competition to PGA Tour. They banned all the players who left and went and played for Live until this tournament. So the PGA Tour had a big problem with LIV, live, however you pronounce it, however you say it. They had a giant problem with it because they used the morality clause. They're like, "Oh, it's Saudi blood money."
yeah,
They're playing a tournament that's called the Masters on a plantation grounds. Like fallback. So the idea that PGA is more refined or is better than, it's crazy, dog, because it's the same thing. It's the same thing. But, so yeah, to hear people say the Masters multiple times, and it is iconic. It is. I think it costs like $400 or $500 to play around at Masters or at Augusta National if you can get there, if you're able to get in and play. So like the reverence that people have toward this place and the tournament is very, 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 very high. But it's so problematic, man. But
mhm,
the people in power, they don't have to care and they don't. So
yeah.
nothing's gonna happen, and enough people will not boycott it or will make enough noise for it to do anything. But it's like I've just been leaning into learning all the stuff people ignore in order to have a good time, in order to do all these things. So it's like whether it's the NCAA tournament and them not playing players, or PGA Tour acting like they're some godsend in terms of golf, which it's crazy.
Well, it's all right. So speaking of masters, so I can see in this circumstance specifically where that's problematic. But they're announcing that they're bringing back. There's a category in bodybuilding where you're over 35, 45, 55, 65. It's masters.
Yep.
and they're bringing back the Masters Olympia. A bunch of old bodybuilders are talking about getting back into shape to go compete and be the old man champion.
Is there a
So is
senior designation?
no, I think
Isn't that
there
more accurate?
it would be,
Because that's what golf
but
does. The senior tour.
okay.
It's completely separate.
Yeah, well, so
But
this is complete. This will be completely separate too. But so a lot of these guys, uh, I'm pretty sure, and the women too. But a lot of the men that are doing this are former Mr. Olympia champions, or they won, uh, multiple other pro shows and stuff like that. That still
yeah.
live the bodybuilding life, but don't want to carry that mass like they did when they were young because they'll die. You know.
Yeah.
so, so that's the designation. Is that so? Speaking in total ignorance, is that in your opinion still problematic, or is it separated enough to be just something totally different?
There's a lot of words. Like there's a lot of options. Like there are plenty of synonyms to the word master that you could easily insert, and the problematic nature of it disappears, right? So champion,
Okay.
any and all of those big words could be applied to the exact same thing, and it doesn't have a connotation that's directly tied to slavery. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So it's less about what the word represents because they are the elite of their sport and they have just aged. So it's like it's less about the designation and more about the laziness, the lack of effort to be inclusive, because that's what today's climate is about, right? It's about representation, it's about being seen, and it's about not poo-pooing something that is different from what your norm is. So
Okay.
it's very easy to just call it the Champions League, to call it the to make up a word. You can literally
You
make up a word.
can call it the Legends Tournament.
All of that, all of those
Yeah.
things, man. Legend. Does that have
Okay.
any racist ties in your mind from your education? Doesn't for me. I have no problem with it. Legends bodybuilders, Legends Olympia. Bam, stamp it, put it out there everywhere. High five. But the word master, like you call it the master bedroom still. Doesn't take much education to tie all that together to know that the master bedroom was where the fucking master stayed on the plantation. So it's like all of these things that tie into this disgusting nature that we come from in an era where people are actively trying to prevent you from learning about it. Do the right thing. Just do a thing that turns out right, because otherwise you look like Joe Biden. Doing something like that doesn't need to bring attention to it, or that takes away attention. That's where I'll sell it. That's where I'll frame it. It takes away from the thing you want to root for. Joe Biden inviting the losers to come as well takes away from LSU.
Yep.
Calling senior bodybuilders, senior Olympia bodybuilders, masters, just because it's a name, a word that you know is it's whack.
Well, it's,
It's
I mean, masters of the craft. When you did a trade, you were a apprentice, journeyman, and then a master of
yeah,
your trade.
you're a master craftsman. You're a master, but again, it's specific. You're a master carpenter. You're a
Right.
master flautist, whatever they call it. Like
A
however
flautist.
yeah, you add those two together. So it's like a combo last name, right? Hyphenate
Yeah.
that bitch.
Well, so, I
Just
mean, so the way I saw that though is it would be master
master
bodybuilder.
master body by master Olympia, all of those things. Like
Yeah.
again, you can make it work, but there are so many other options that mean the same thing.
Okay. So,
That's
I
all.
was just I was coming from it from like a trade standpoint
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
where
no. Also,
because
and in terms of duality, both things are true. But again, it's about the thing that you have to overlook in order to have the master. Is it worth that? Is it overlooking slavery to use the word master? The simple answer is no. It's not worth it. Call it legends, bro. Who's gonna see it and say legends? Nah, not tuning in. No one's gonna get upset. You call anything master.
So they'll have to think of something other than legends. I was just thinking about this. They're gonna have to think of something other than that because there's people over 45 and 55 that go and earn IFBB pro cards like late in life,
Yeah.
so they'd be able to compete in, and they had never won anything before, so it couldn't really be legends because it'd be who's that guy next to Jay Cutler, like you know what I mean?
You
Like,
say Jay Cutler, I think the Bears. So
it,
that's why it's funny.
first off, I love both Jay Cutlers. All right,
I love Jay
for
Cutler
for
whenever he wasn't on the field.
no, for total separate reasons, I love both Jay Cutlers.
It's classic.
One for the dedication to his craft, and one for the exact opposite reason.
Shout out to Jay Cutler. Oh my
Dude,
lord.
oh, my favorite was like when he was getting divorced from Christina
The
Cavallari,
the Laguna
and
Beach girl. Yeah.
she was like, "How am I gonna pay for all of this?" And he's like, "Get a job."
I read that wasn't true.
Oh, in
I
my
read that
mind, in
wasn't.
my
Yeah,
heart,
no,
it
because
will always be true.
someone for sure sold it as that because I saw that and it made
Well,
me
dude,
laugh.
because it's something he'd say too. Because I remember they were doing that reality show. They were doing
The-
that reality show, and she's like, "I want to go and do," and he was just like, "I've made millions upon millions of dollars getting hit in the head, so I'm just gonna sit down." And I was like, "Yes."
yeah, yeah, man. Oh, speaking of football, have you watched any of The Rock's revamping of the XFL?
I have watched a couple games. Brittany's all footballed out. I'm I everyone in this home can say that they're okay. They have no problem with sports being on, but I'm the only one that gets odd about sports,
Right.
and that's in a way that's obnoxious to me. So I I more of would rather not have to sit through people just being bummed that sports is on rather than watch sports.
Yeah, I get
So
that. I get that sentiment in my house too.
I kind of just don't. But
So
I followed the story of AJ McCarron. I really appreciate that. I think that was a solid dad move. On top of he gets to play.
yeah,
For people that don't know about that, was he's been a backup in the NFL for at least 5 years now, right?
yeah,
And he has young sons and kids that will watch his college highlights and stuff. Like, dang, Dad, I wish I could watch you play. Blah 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 blah.
sure.
And he took a pretty massive pay cut to go be a starting quarterback for the St. Louis Battlehawks
Dope.
in the XFL, so his kids could watch him play football.
That's dope.
That's badass. Like,
Yeah, that's really cool. I just like the idea that there are other options for the athletes
yes,
because simply because the market is so small, the pool of players is so small at the NFL level, even in the Canadian Football League. Like there's only so many slots. But I personally worked with a guy who was working out as a wide receiver years ago, and he was working with me. I'm like, bro, what the fuck are you doing here? And he showed me. He was like, I go, do you have a highlight reel or anything? He goes, yeah, I've got my tape. You can see it. And he was just kind of like nonchalant about it. He's a monster. JUCO monster. I was like, yo, and he was like having a hard time landing on a practice squad.
yeah.
And so it was like, guys like him, I know will have an opportunity now that they never could have simply because the NFL didn't want competition, which is bullshit.
Well, it doesn't and the revamped, is it the USFL that's around too?
Yeah, there are options. It's great.
Yeah,
People are
I
going
agree.
to choose what they're going to choose, but they're not unless the NFL does something wrong. They're not going to go away from it because it's still top tier. It's still
Right.
considered, top shelf. So yeah, more the merrier, in my opinion.
Well, I was watching. Oh yeah, I was watching the XFL. I was watching a play go down, and I went, "Huh." And Brittany goes, "What?" And I said, "That just made me realize how fast the players in the NFL are moving."
Yeah, If anything, it makes
because
the NFL players look better.
well, yeah, I mean, and it wasn't like the guys did anything fundamentally wrong. It was just you just watch this play unfold and you go,
There's just an extra gear. There's
yeah,
something else that is the X factor, and that's the biggest thing about the XFL, right? Is when its first iteration, he hit me. All of this,
he,
it
he,
was he hate me,
he
and
hate me.
so all of these things were so over the top, and it was loud on purpose. It was
Mhm.
it was extreme or whatever, and so now it's just like I don't care about what the name is. I just want these players to have an option to where if I want to watch football, that's on. To where and if I watch somebody and they do well, then I can support them. The same way you would an athlete who makes 20 times what they do. So a jersey sell to someone in the XFL is going to mean a lot more than someone in the NFL,
Right.
just because of the way they're paid. So there's many ways to make it make sense, and The Rock put the weight of his name behind it, and I'm happy for him and for taking that and making that top or making that attempt because
Well,
uh,
when Vince McMahon started the whole other company to make the XFL happen again, kind of thing. Like I have St. Louis Battlehawks merch,
nice.
and I have a Houston Roughnecks shirt too, because I was like, oh, that's dope. I can watch St. Louis football and Houston football, not during regular football season. That's
Yep.
amazing. And yeah, I mean, I'm just stoked there's football back in St. Louis, dude. I I still hope that freaking discount Gomez Adams fucking Cronky out there back in Los Angeles. I still hope his fucking whole ass falls off. Like I hope he gets literal just butt cancer. Now I'm not talking colon cancer. I'm talking cancer of the cheeks where they have to cut his ass off. Like he like like, like rat bastard. I feel pretty strongly about that.
So bringing up Vince McMahon, how do you feel about the recent transaction that happened?
Have you seen Vince McMahon?
I wasn't going to talk about his appearance just out of
Dog.
respect.
No, just no. Can you pull up a shot and share it on the screen?
I
You
can
have that?
find it. I don't Give me a moment. I'll find it, but yes.
He looks like every like silent movie villain that's ever existed.
Oh, man. He looks like he has too much money.
Dude, oh man, he's just an old man trying too hard. Like
That's the only thing I can attribute it to because why would you make yourself look like that on purpose?
he's never had facial hair in his entire life. And then
You know what's funny though is he has the same facial hair as my dad. My dad has that thin mustache, and
yeah,
I've seen it full a few times, but he still rocks that.
yeah, but see, like, so your dad is established with that.
Yeah.
That
Oh,
is
yeah.
like
Okay.
part
Very good. Very good.
that is who your that look is a part of who your father is.
You're right.
This man is 78 years old and has never had a mustache. He showed up with jet black hair,
That's so
jet
funny.
black eyebrows, and a jet black pencil thin mustache. And
Oh boy.
like before he had to take his hiatus to hide away from the you know, paying off people he's had affairs with.
Right. Right.
Like you saw him on TV and he was a gray-haired, just a little more gray than salt and pepper. Looked like a really in shape 70 plus year old man.
Yep.
And now he's a goddamn cartoon. Is it like oh
Maybe
man.
maybe he's happy with that though, bro. Maybe he's happy
Hey,
with that look.
hey, more power to you. Like
Maybe he thinks he is ahead of the game. Maybe he thinks he knows something we don't.
dude, I think he's gonna try and Walt Disney himself to where like
Oof.
when it comes like yes. Oh hey, shout out to Captain Sandy. Uh,
Shout out to Captain Sandy. Don't know what happened, but I had this
uh,
beautiful layout ready for you. In the event you did show, but instead we get to see Vince McMahon's
look at Vince
beautiful.
Man.
I mean, is there a level of respect because his eyebrows are the same shape as his mustache? Like the uniformity is on point. Like you can't be mad at that.
Oh man,
I saw something that said that he bought the WWE for $100 million and he's selling it for like 4 billion.
yeah.
Those
Well, so
numbers might be
he
wrong, but
so when he was getting things started, he borrowed money from his dad, who
okay.
gave him the company. Then he used that. Uh, he used that to build this empire and buy out all the territories and eventually crush the last remnants of his competition. So I mean, like his contributions to professional wrestling are vast, but yeah,
It's another
he
one of
looks
those
like
things. It looks his yeah. This is my guy Marcus. Shout out to
hey,
Marcus.
hey Marcus.
He looks like Gomez Adams. His mustache is slightly different than your dad's. Yes, Marcus is very well aware of my dad's. Uh, Man, his mustache. He's been rocking that thing for a long time.
But yeah, so I mean, like
It's
leaps and
wild, man.
bounds with professional wrestling. He's built this crazy empire.
So, you still watched WrestleMania though, right?
Of course, I did.
Does
I
that go
watched I watch two pay-per-views every year.
okay?
It's the
And
it's the
so,
Royal Rumble and WrestleMania.
so you said that sports doesn't typically go over well in the household. Do you have the same feeling when you have this on TV? Do you care how they feel about
No, I do not.
it?
Yeah. Um,
Just double check.
no, but I'm getting Mila sat and watched it with me, and then Wyatt was like, "Oh, this is wow." I was like, "Yes, this is WrestleMania. WrestleMania rules. We should go to one of these." I was like, "Yes, yes, we should." um, yeah, WrestleMania this year was good. I mean, there was a couple hiccups that, like with anything, there was a couple hiccups that made it kind of hokey and or stop the momentum of a match. But like, I mean, overall, it was a good 2 nights. WrestleMania is 2 nights now for some reason.
Nice.
But,
Oh yeah, they're gonna spread it out for
well,
make
they have to. It's their biggest show of the year, and they have so many, so many championships and pardon me, and people that people pay money to see. Why not?
yep. People will support it. So the clip that I attempted to post that I think I sent to you,
Yeah.
and you remarked on the after effect, which was Snoop stepping in to play his part. Um, but who's the wrestler that injured himself?
So that is Shane McMahon. That's actually Vince McMahon's son.
Oh, bro, double whammy.
So, um, so there was a Royal Rumble a long time ago that just sucked.
Okay.
And Vince, he usually sits back behind the curtain and he's watching everything live and he talks to the commentators, like
Mm,
say this, mention that kind of thing,
gotcha.
and watches the show to make sure it's going to how he wants it to go. And this match sucked. So he comes storming out of the back
Yeah.
to tell everyone in the ring to like redo it and figure it out. Because like and that never happens. But he
Yeah.
was so pissed that he was going to make him redo this main event on the big pay per view of the year.
No doubt.
He he gets into the ring, tears a quad, stands up, tears his other quad. So he sits back up against the rope and is screaming at everybody
Follow
after he
through.
just after he's got tore both quads and then had to be helped to the back, obviously, to go have surgery to have his quads reattached.
Yeah.
But so Shane, his son, has always been a really athletic guy. He's never been huge or like obviously he's the best fighter in the world, but he'd always put his body on the line and do ridiculous shit. You want to watch a crazy Shane McMahon match? You find it was at the King of the Ring, and it was Shane McMahon versus Kurt Angle.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you'll go because so one of the pieces of glass was supposed to break, and Kurt Angle was supposed to suplex him through it, but the people who put the glass up switched the glass and didn't tell anybody. So as Kurt's trying to throw him through, it boom, and then as he comes down the glass, he hits his head on the ground, thud,
Ooh.
and then Kurt's kind of like trying to check on him, do it again, thud, oh, do it again,
Oh.
and so on the third time, he finally breaks him through this plate of glass, which
Yeah.
wasn't sugar glass, it was real glass. That whole match was banana. Anyway, but so he comes out to obviously have this blow off. Look at me, I'm Shane McMahon
Yeah.
making a special guest appearance. He does a thing where it's a leapfrog. He leapfrogs the Miz and blows his knee out bad.
On the landing. Oh man.
Just blows his knee out bad. And so obviously the Miz kind of backs up, and as they're trying to get him out of the ring or whatever. And how that's supposed to go is to make that better. Miz should have either got on him and started like whooping on him or something, kind of like to take advantage of it and be like a real shitty bad guy kind of thing. But what ended up happening was Snoop Dogg on the fly got in the ring and beat his ass,
How
quote
old is
unquote.
how old is Snoop?
God, he's got to be almost 60.
Is he 60 now?
Got to be.
But yeah,
But
I didn't really tune in much. But in terms of swollenness, it just made me think like that cliche, never skip leg day. It was just like, oh boy, because it was one of those no contact injuries to where he just did a normal movement and then his leg stopped working. And then he tried to
mm-hmm.
get up on it and his leg was like not working.
Well, so he's about 62, like as well.
Doing the
You know,
most. What are you jumping
mm-hmm.
like that at 64?
So, that's what he's known for. So obviously he was just trying to
Yeah.
do.
It reminds me of like seeing old acts that you were fond of when you were younger, and
Mm-hmm.
you go see them later in life, and it's not a good show because they're older now and they can't move around. It doesn't convey the same. You don't the believability goes away because they're in an advanced age. But it's like again the Joe Biden thing. It's like doing something for the sake of attention, and then it turns into a worse thing. So like, but the funniest part about it, in my opinion, was how quickly that video got taken down. It got taken down so fast, multiple times, and I switched it up. I flipped the video around. I cropped out all of the insignias. It did not fucking matter, bro. That shit was gone ASAP. So I don't know if that would have been everything that I shared from WrestleMania, but that clip they were protecting him, and so
Mm-hmm.
shout out to the powers that be because of course it was on Barstools, and so you could see it there, and then where I got it from, it wouldn't allow me to do the same thing. So
Yep.
another thing, but
Yeah, they're real particular about who gets to share their stuff and
yeah,
how. But the so I was bummed about the Asuka and I can't remember who the Raw Women's Champion is right now. I'm
yeah,
having a brain fart.
can't tell you.
But Asuka does a thing that started with the Great Kabuki down to Muda, where they spit mist kind of thing.
Okay,
And she went to do her miss spot, and obviously she's supposed to miss kind of thing. And her missed capsule was on the mat, and there was no way the cameras could miss it, kind of
yeah,
thing. It was just obvious, and that's what I was focused on for the rest of the match, because I've been watching wrestling for a long, long, long time, and even when I was a kid that believed it was real,
yeah,
like the fake little stuff, I always noticed that. Now it takes me out of it. You know what I mean?
Ah.
So like whatever happens the rest of this match, I'm like the capsule's on the mat. Capsule's on the mat. It's like because the whole thing with the mist was it was supposed to be this secret orient mist that they can pull up from their stomach. It's this blinding poison kind of thing. But it's like no, there's her. It's right there.
Do they call it the Orient Mist?
They used to call it stuff like that, but they don't. I mean, they don't anymore, obviously. But like back
I
when before Americans really had a grasp of Japanese culture kind of thing, because like
There's no before, man. It's appropriation. Straight up.
no, but it was but it was always like the Japanese wrestlers that came and did it kind of thing. So that was the
Sure.
whole
Yeah.
anyway. But but they inducted the Great Muta into the Hall of Fame this year, so
Progress.
dog, I could watch the Great Muta wrestle every day for the rest of my life.
So I'm seeing Bianca Belair. Is that the correct name?
But Bianca Belair, and she is dope. She is one hell of a wrestler. The best women's match, though, that happened during both nights of WrestleMania was the Charlotte Flair and Rhea Ripley match, though. Because they're both tall, in shape women, and they beat the shit out of each other. Like you could obviously stuff was worked, but like when they were laying shit in, dude, they were laying shit in, and you could hear like it pop, like the hits pop. You know what I mean? Like it was
Yeah.
they kicked the shit out of each other. That was amazing. That was an amazing match. Probably the best match of the whole card, honestly.
Yeah.
That's you don't ever hear that when it comes to a women's match. But that was probably the match of the whole damn thing. The other thing that took me out of it was they did a Hell in a Cell to tie up an angle in between Edge and Finn Balor, and of course, there was like weapons involved and blah blah blah, and this big cage that you can't escape. And Edge did a thing where he threw a ladder sideways at Finn Balor, and Finn went to go put his hands up. He did, but he missed the top. The top hit him in the top of the head,
Oof.
and split him open. So he got color the hard way, is what that's called. Like you're not bleeding on purpose, but you're bleeding. And immediately the camera stayed away from him. They didn't show the blood that was dripping on the mat. They had to call the doctor in to staple his head right away. But that was something that could have been used for the emotion of the match. That was something that could have been like, oh wow, look at him now as he's gushing blood and still putting up a fight. Can Edge stop this? Like they used to do with wrestling.
Yeah.
Right? But dude, they had to stop the match. They stopped the bleeding. They stapled his head. This was like 5 minutes. It stopped the whole momentum of the match.
So they don't cut. There's no standby entertainment.
No, but they're not supposed to anymore. Like, you're not supposed to bleed anymore.
Yeah,
And
I get it.
I understand, but I'm also like, if you're selling tickets and you're wanting to draw on the emotion of the people watching at home, especially
Yeah.
the people in there would eat it up too because they're feeding off that vibe. That's what wrestling used to be. Like you could go watch old Dusty Rhodes matches or like Bruiser Brody, Ric Flair before he bled all the time for no reason. Like the matches were like all of a sudden these guys were having these hard matches and one of them was bleeding,
Yeah.
and then they had to fight through the pain because like an old boxer kind of thing.
Yep.
Because wrestling was presented as a sport for so many years, but now it's like,
I mean, I can see, and because it's an act, because it's scripted, it's like there's a parallel to where if you're at a Broadway show and something goes down, and then they don't have a backup to keep the show, right? Because that's always the moniker, right? The show must go on. So like,
right.
you can't have a fill-in, like you can't have a stunt double come in and do what they do.
Well, so, but that was the whole thing. So like there's two ways of bleeding in wrestling. There's the one where you blade, where you have your opponent blade you.
Okay.
So little razor blade cut. If you ever look at the old wrestlers, they have dents in their forehead from just little razor blade slits. and then so that's your way you do it. Or there was the accidental hard way, which is where you got hit in the head with something and cut your head.
Yep.
And like that was a perfect hard way. They could have been like, because it's a Hell in a Cell match. There's no escape. There's weapons everywhere. They're all getting hit with all kinds of weird stuff. The ending of the match was where Edge laid him on a chair and then smashed over his head with another chair and then pinned him, kind of thing. It's like, what more that would have been so perfect for that ending. Like, yes, the cut was huge. It was gross, but like that was like, and if you would like, I would have rather they called the audible to end the match right there rather
Yeah.
than stopping it for 5 minutes and doing it, because like, okay, there's the cut, there's the blood. Finn comes up staggering, fists up. Edge spears him, remembers all the wrong he's done to him. Chair spot, bang, 1, 2, 3. He gets the medical help he needs, all in a matter of 30 seconds.
Yeah.
And that would have been. But here I am rambling about wrestling.
Well, I mean, just because we brought it up earlier, but the Damar Hamlin injury, like when he got hurt, I was livid. I'm like, end this game now.
Mhm.
I could give two shits what happens. I could give two shits about the playoff seeding, all of the nuance, all of the extra that the intangibles that would play out. Like none of that shit mattered outside of his health. So for that same reason, I would. There's no way I'm like, well, see if he can stand. Give him some smelling salts. See if he can. Like, nah, this man's heart stopped. Like, and you're playing a game to where you're going full force trying to stop somebody. So it's like there's not an act in that game. So the fact that for something that you understand is not real, for realness to be added to it, and then you're disappointed that you didn't get to execute all of the fakeness. Just shows what it is. Like it's a violent sport, it's a violent show, but like you said, if it's done right, nobody should get hurt
Well, yeah, and then
unless that's
there's
part of the
ways,
plan.
to, oh, someone's hurt. We can use this to end the match safely and effectively,
Yeah.
and it leaves the crowd with a
Yeah.
or a yay, because like the bad guy got really hurt or something. You know what I mean? Like there's ways to do it,
Yeah.
and they just stop the whole momentum of the damn thing.
Yeah.
And then it was like, okay,
That's
you're
liability, bro. That's liability all day
all
long.
right. No, I understand, but like one of my biggest problems with AEW, which is trying to be a competitor with WWE, is someone bleeds every week for no
Yeah.
reason, and it's there's no like, when you see an AEW wrestler bleed, it's not like there's not an emotion tied to it. You're just like, oh yeah, that guy just bleeds. Like there's no like
You still get
work.
that with WWE.
Yeah. So like, because if you bleed all the time, no one cares.
Yeah.
If it's the that's the big problem I have with AEW is these guys in every single one of their matches, they do every move they know,
Right.
and it's like,
Where do you go from there?
yeah, like shouldn't you have saved that for like a big match rather than fucking Chad Christopher versus you know
Yeah.
washed up McGee. Watch them do every wrestling move they have ever learned.
Yeah.
12 false finishes. That that's we should change that to the thumbnail for the show.
His face.
Just with your whole layout,
It's not too late.
and
Yeah. Yeah.
I
It's not too late.
mean, we get
Instead of this, I have his face instead of the
yeah.
book. Oh,
Well,
hold
no,
on.
with the whole Captain Sandy layout, and
Oh,
then
in that. Okay. I was just thinking about facing, putting it right here instead of the book, but that would work as well.
yeah, man, like
So, what's a worse look? This or Trump being indicted? Indicated.
this.
And the funny, like the non-funny part is, I believe you.
Yeah, like
You're 100% right. Oh my gosh, Vince. So okay, so what's the worst look? Shane injuring himself in the manner he did, or this?
this. Shane injured himself being doing an athletic move.
Yeah. Oh
Vince
man.
McMahon did this on purpose. Like,
Oh, he paid somebody to do that.
yeah,
Can you get a
like,
refund on a shave?
dude.
How does that work? And it
Well, so
is that his usual barber? Like who does that to him?
I have no idea, but the whole thing is like he's got to be covering up like bad lip injection sites or something.
Ah, that's what happens when you got too many yes people around.
Yeah.
You got
Well,
people who can't tell you no. Because if I saw him in the hallway, I would have given him a look that would have let him know, nah.
you just scared me. Yeah.
But not that my look would have done anything or changed it, but it would have just been like, oh, that was a mistake. And in the era of mask wearing, hey, put a face mask on. Nobody sees that. Oof. Boy, oh boy. All right, man.
Well,
We've been
well,
on this train. It's almost 9 o'clock. Um,
yep.
Obviously, a little bit disappointed that Captain Sandy didn't join us. Um,
Yeah. I mean, like I have email confirmation. I have she retweeted us at least twice today on her,
check this check this thing out. I'm not gonna show up for. Oof.
and no shade, no hate.
No, none at all. None at all. And people are busy, and I don't know why she took this. Why she said
it,
yes. I don't know. It was nice of her to say yes. Sucks she didn't show up.
it
But
does. I had an opportunity to listen to her book, so
let's talk about it. What you
it's a
still it's still a good thing, right?
it's still a great book. I'm not gonna like. I'm bummed. I'm really bummed because um, just from her book alone, I was like, wow. I like there's I obviously didn't grow up in Florida. I didn't have the childhood she did,
Mm.
but with how she talks and how she speaks and how she does things, it's like I relate a lot. I can see where and how she thinks the way she does, from her book. So I was really excited to talk to someone that was like a almost kindred spirit kind of
Right.
thing.
Yeah.
Um,
Same
I mean, I'm
tribe vibe.
obviously, yeah. I mean, so she's an adult with ADHD. Um, she's you know done more drugs than hasn't.
Right.
Like I've done more drugs than I haven't. Like I mean, obviously there's different career paths that we went on, but I mean, uh, so I mean, I was really really looking forward to this conversation, man, because the way she speaks about helping people, and she talks about deciding on giving people more than one chance based on what she sees in their soul,
Well,
kind of thing.
proof is in the
Like,
pudding. So
yeah.
so
So
maybe this is just put on pause because I've got a bunch of questions listed. You've got a bunch of
yeah,
stuff to talk about, and for being people who do this on the fly by the seat of our pants most weeks, it's like I've been watching Below Deck Mediterranean. I've watched 5 seasons
yeah,
since 2 weeks ago. So I've put in some time. I've invested quite a few hours in being up to speed with understanding the flow of the show, the drama that ensues, and then learning about the culture of yachting and everything that goes down with that because I've been on a couple cruises myself and they were, the grand scale ones, but I I'm very interested in what's going on and my wife's into the show and she I'm sure that she jumped on this at one point and was like, "Oh, she's not on. Peace."
Oh, so just these assholes again.
Yeah. But yeah, man, it's a disappointing thing. It's not something that doesn't happen, so it's
Yeah.
just take it for what it is. And um, I mean, you can't really be mad, and you have this face to look at. So, like, we're gonna make the best out of a bad situation, but hopefully, whatever prevented her from being on the show tonight, everything's good, and hopefully we hear from her in the future, and we're able to not, lock this down and have a conversation.
Yeah, man. I mean, hopefully it was just a time zone thing, or something.
Well, that was my concern going into this was, are we doing it at the same time as normal? Because where we are now,
Yeah,
she may not be. Likely is not. So,
and then that was my. I'd asked her multiple times about time zone stuff, and she said, "Just send me the Google invite." And
dope.
didn't make any suggestion otherwise.
Yeah.
So
Maybe she doesn't handle her social media. Maybe she never knew.
yeah, I mean,
What if she has someone? She's got a young social media. I want to say I want to be ageist. Maybe she has a social media manager who is doing this with the point of booking her up. And today's date came up and was like, "Oh, you have that thing. You have Sober Swole." And she goes, "Huh?" And you've actually never spoken to her. I got scammed. I got scammed last year. So maybe Captain Sandy has no idea who we are and has never spoken with us, and it's all been through a third party, and we don't know. That could be the case. Would that make you feel any better?
I mean, I don't know,
I
but
got a solution for that. Just look at that mustache.
it's just amazing.
Shout out to my pops. He's been rocking that thing for decades.
Vince McMahon stole your look.
If
Yeah, man.
if he saw a picture of my dad and was like, "Yep, let's do that for WrestleMania." I don't know. Anyway,
What What time is it in Florida right now?
it is
Like
11
midnight,
o'clock.
11,
Is it 2 hours? 3?
2 or 3.
Yeah.
We don't do time changes. I don't know.
Yes, exactly. Everyone else moves around us, so you deal with it.
Yeah. I have no clue. I got a duck run to build.
Absolutely. All right, boss man. Go ahead and send us out.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for listening to the Sober Swole podcast. For Captain Sandy, I'm Jake Howard.
I actually hit the wrong button. I had your woo lined up, but you said for Captain Sandy. So, as a producer, I am DJ Swirl.
Chocolate and vanilla swirl.
Warhorse. Send us off. Oh no! What happened to Warhorse? Oh,
You know what?
here it is. Here's Warhorse. Sorry.
Oh, okay. Here's
Snap into a Slim Jim.
Hey, it's Warhorse. Do you want your workouts to look like this? Or do you want your workouts to slay? When Warhorse picks his pre-workout, he wants it to slay. If you want second place, go with somebody else. If you want to be a champion, go with Royalty Nutrition.